Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live chat. We got a lot of exciting things to talk about. It is go time in a lot of places in North America, and even some of my buddies up in Canada are really getting busy and seeing good pollen flows. And thank you, Laurel, the girl behind the scenes, getting it done, even if it's just a cup of tea or running one of the biggest beekeeping expos, well, pretty much in the world. So, thanks for joining us. We have a lot of exciting things to tell you, but we also are going to be taking a lot of time to answer your questions and get those answered and talk about swarm season, honey production, and what I'm looking forward to this year. I hope you guys will let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Good to see you all, so many friends. I was looking at a video that I did 5 years ago, and I just cannot believe it's been 5 years. If you look at my face, it looks like it's been 5 years, but other than that, we're all good. So, without further ado, the expo tickets are going live this evening. So, let's begin with that. That's always an exciting time because I get to see so many of you there, and we also get to see so many great companies from in the US and outside of the US, so many new innovations, and there's so much more that happens at the Bee Expo than what you would experience at a typical conference. And I'm not just saying that because it's mine, because we have so many people, we have so many companies, and there's so many of you all. We have the creators, we have the innovators, we have the folks pushing things forward and making the needle go in the direction that it needs to go, whether that's in the honey show, whether that's in better mite controls, whether that's in genetics. The interesting people, by and large, are there and they're fun to get to meet. And a lot of them, you don't even hardly know who they are until you just run into them getting coffee at the Copper Canyon booth. And one of the guys, I may have mentioned this in the past, I was talking to Blake Shook. He's like, yeah, that guy over there, he's got like 30,000 hides. I'm like, what? He looks like he just came out of Walmart. But you just don't know who you're going to run into at the Bee Expo, and we hope to run into you there if you have the chance. So that is going. We also have some other stuff to talk about at the towards the end of the live chat. We'll be giving a ticket away. We'll be doing a random drawing. So if you're on here, we will have you engage with us so that we can do a randomized name selector. Dealio, I'm sure there's a fancy name for that. Chris will handle all the button pushing, and somebody will get a free ticket to the North American Honeybee Expo. It will be in Louisville, Kentucky, second, third, and fourth. We're going to try a few different things out this year. Not everything's 100% sure yet, but we are tempted to go to 3 full days and add a little bit extra. The trade show won't be open any longer, but we'll have a half of a morning for other things that we haven't been able to do in the past, and we'll talk about that in the future as we work through the logistics of all that. But we will also have hotels in the future at the discounted price. We need a little bit more time on that to get those together. We learned a lot from the last expo on shuttles and various things to make it convenient, and we have a lot of ideas to make the expo not only more convenient and easy, but more fun and more educational and more interesting and a lot more options for people that, hey, I want to learn how to become a honey judge, or hey, I want to learn how to look into artificial insemination. That's something that most of us probably aren't interested in, but we want to see if we can have some of those smaller demands met as well at the North American Honeybee Expo. The Beekeeping Preacher. All right, East Tennessee, Knoxville area. That's over by where Laurel was raised. All right, so we've gotten rid of that top secret thing out of the way. So that has gone live. There is one more thing to say as far as that goes, and there is an early bird price, and I believe it's 2 months or close to 2 months from now or so. I'll have to check the website. You think I would know, right? Let's see. Laurel's doing all the real stuff.
It's
And
May 4th till July 31st.
that was my conscience. Just so July 31st till July 31st is the early bird pricing, and then after that it does go up. So take advantage of that if you know that you're going to come. Tell all your friends. All right. So, Chris, let's get into some questions. Oh, well,
Did you
thank.
want to go over it real quick?
Oh, no, let's not do that. Let's get to people's questions. I appreciate that. Everyone can check that out. The website, is it live yet, or will it be live here in a little bit?
It's live.
It's live. Oh, also check the video that's on there. We just released a demo video. You might even see your face in there if you went to the last North American Honeybee Expo. Yeah, there's some pretty
And
good honeys there.
and the FAQ is also live as well for questions as we have answers.
Yes, and that will be getting more and more updated. And yeah, thanks, Chris, for doing all this with the website. Coming soon, vendor registration July 1st. The youth program. Any of you all know any young beekeepers that are like between the ages of 11 and I cannot remember what the cutoff. I'll have to look into that too, but I think it's like 20 or something like that. 'Cause I think 21 we consider them a full-fledged adult, of course. And if you know any guys or gals in that age range, we are looking for 30 right now, and possibly as we go further along, we may have a couple more open up to where we will bring them with a full ride in, a guardian with them if that's necessary, if they're younger. And then we also do a hotel reimbursement where it's actually a flat rate that we give at the expo, and we have shirts, and also we have some special classes for just the youth to prep them for getting more active with beekeeping. So that will be available July 1st. We really hope that we have a lot of young guys and gals get involved. We've seen a lot of really good things from that program, and we just want to see it continue. Thanks to everybody who donated to the silent auction companies, individuals. People just donated their money through the ticket option as well, an extra $5 here, and that goes towards getting this covered. And we'll be announcing 2025 speakers. You'll see a couple familiar faces, but we've already got several new people that have never been to the Bee Expo before. I'm sure you've heard of some of them, maybe never met them before. So, anyways, let's get to the questions, Chris. Let's get to the bee stuff. There's a lot to talk about. It is May, and boy, the honey has been flowing down here.
All right, first question here from Richard. Thanks, Richard, for your question.
All right, brand new beekeeper. Will swarm traps work well in wooded areas? So Thomas Seeley wrote a book called The Honeybee Democracy, and one of the things that they studied is, what do bees prefer? And they did a lot of different scientific research over many years. And I believe I think he's retired from Cornell now. I could be wrong, but I think he's retired. But they found that wooded areas, bees don't want to be in the middle of them, in the thick part of the woods. They want to be on the tree line. So when you hang up your swarm traps, don't stick them deep in the middle of woods. Now, let's say there's a clearing in the middle of some woods. That might be a different story. I don't know about that one, but we've always had really good success putting them on the edge of a tree line. And a buddy of mine who doesn't live too far from me, I think at one point he had like 50 swarm traps up, and he was averaging like 55, 60% on those. And he had it figured out pretty good. If you get a chance, Thomas Seeley's book, The Honeybee Democracy, if you want to get really fancy with it, can help out a lot. I'm going to
All
say a
right.
real quick thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I hope you're doing good in Sweden. Thank you so much. We will make sure that the young girls and guys get to have some fun at the Bee Expo this year, and you've donated towards that in the past, and it's a lot of fun. Some of the girls and the boys are quiet, and we get emails from them afterwards saying what they learned or who they were excited to meet. But some of them are very extroverted, and some of them run a YouTube channel. Some of them are on here right now, and if they're listening to this, I want to say I'm really proud of you guys and girls because I see what you're doing. Even though sometimes I don't have time to email you or comment, we see the videos that you're creating. We see the Facebook posts that you're doing. And this whole process is a journey, like we talked about with Bob this year. And you guys are starting the process a lot earlier, and that's a big advantage. You just got to keep plugging away like you are, and it's going to work out for you. I know it will. And thank you so much for helping make that possible. I know it's super early in the morning in Sweden too, so bless your heart for being awake right now. When do we send in our kids' video for the expo? So that is July 1st. Yeah, send that in. That will be on the website. It'll be the next gen section of the website. We'll probably have that up sometime mid-June. I'm going to try to get it before July 1st, but July 1st is the latest that it'll be up on the website. So we can evaluate those guys and gals and send just a short video, 2 or 3 minutes, or if you want to do 10, you can do a Cameron Reynolds video. It'll be long, but yeah, send that in for sure.
All right. Next up, we have a question from Corey Atwood.
Corey Atwood. Hey, Cayman, I got a small swarm I caught a couple weeks ago. I just checked it and has laying workers. Can I requeen or just shake them out? Man, I hate it when that happens with swarms. And swarms is a mixed bag of nuts. I've caught a lot of swarms over the years, and with swarm traps, you do get these situations, and sometimes swarms get queenless. Bees just do all kinds of weird stuff, and I see this a lot. Is where a swarm, you catch them. The queen was already old. She might be 2 years old. And they swarm out and they let her lay for just a little bit, and then they requeen her. But sometimes maybe an accident's happened or she's just that bad off, and they just go laying workers really fast. That's a tough situation to be in because you don't have any brood. And requeening this is going to be extremely difficult. If you spend money on a queen, 40, $50, whatever that is, you're putting it in when it's laying workers just like that. I don't even know if it's a 30% chance of success with laying workers. It's a tough scenario. And honestly, those bees are old. If they've gotten to laying workers, most of those bees are so old, they don't have a lot of life left in them. And even if they did accept a queen, a lot of times because they're so out of balance, they'll let her lay for a little bit and they're like, ooh, something's still not right. And then they'll supersede her and raise a queen cell off of her. And even if that queen comes back by then, they're so old and everything's just so out of whack. It's just a constant spiral down. So I personally would paper combine that, like shake them out or something like that and let them disperse, or paper combine them with a very strong colony that is going to be able to fend for itself. And I would deal with it like that. We At this point, we get situations like that. We don't risk a queen unless we just have extra queen cells, and we'll maybe give it a shot, give it a frame of capped brood, so it has a lot of emerging nurse bees. So when that queen comes back, she now has 5,000, 4,000 there about young bees. But still, okay, you did that. Still a risky situation, more than usual, and you could have just made a split with that queen. So I wouldn't recommend requeening that, Corey. Okay.
All right. Next up, we have a question here from, I believe it's Lana.
I bought a queen and it's been 2 weeks and she's still not laying, so I have no eggs, no larvae, no pupae in this hive. Doggone it. Hmm. Yeah, she should be laying by now and doing a really good job. If there's no queen cells in there, well, let's go ahead and talk about something that has been on my mind a lot lately. And I've talked to Corey Stevens about it and other beekeepers as well. And one of the problems when we make splits is that sometimes when we introduce a queen in there, they just don't raise queen cells or they'll cut them down if things just work out just right. But sometimes these queens that we get have a very low pheromone profile because they haven't been laying for a while. And sometimes these bees just want to raise their own and they may accept their queen. That doesn't sound like this case, but they'll be raising queen cells and they will accept that queen, she'll start laying, and then those queen cells, they'll still take care of them. And then a virgin will emerge and kill that queen. So that's really frustrating because sometimes those emergency cells are really bad queens, but it doesn't matter. And a laying queen is not going to just stop laying and go and kill another queen. They are just focused on laying. That is it. You unleash a virgin in the hive, um, and the hive accepts that virgin and lets it run, through the hive at its own will. It's going to go kill queens. So I wonder if there maybe could have been a virgin in that hive, but if there was, by this point she should be laying, or is it just a bunch of old bees? And this is our number two problem, Lana or Lena, sorry if I get the name wrong, is queen issues. We sold some nukes this morning, and this is what I tell everybody. No one, we read about these books. So the queens last 3 years. Oh, I have a queen on Facebook. So it's 5 years old. I know it is, but they don't mark their queen half the time, or more than that. And nobody really knows. Most queens don't last that long. You're going to have queen issues, and I hate this is happening to you, but it is super normal for us. We see queen issues every week, so we split. Um, and have insurance colonies and extra queens in our back pocket. Let's say I wanted to run a 100 colony operation, I'm running 125 colonies on the low end, maybe a little bit more. And this time of the year when it's easy, I'm going to make some extra splits, healthy splits, new queen, and I am going to have those in my back pocket because they're so valuable. Because queen issues is truly a difficult issue that we face with all the time. Mites being our number one problem, queens definitely being number two. Sorry about your small hive. It's probably a similar situation that swarm. Paper combined them with a stronger colony. And yeah, with our nukes, we tell people, hey, build them up to double deeps in June. And if you want to put in the extra work, and I think it's worth it, even if you just thought you wanted one hive, buy another queen, take that double deeps, even out the resources, put a new queen in there, and you're good. And to follow up on the early bit about, oh, what do we do about them raising their own queens and then those virgins going and killing the one we just purchased or raised ourselves? What we do about that is we make the split and we come back 4 or 5 days later and we cut down any queen cells that they were trying to raise. And so if we know that we're going to have a queen come on Saturday, we could make it up Monday. We could even make it a week before. That'll be okay. The queen cells won't hatch that quick, the emergency ones that they make. And then they're hopelessly queenless, and they are very prone to accept that queen, and and that seems to work pretty good. All right, Chris. Next question.
We got a short one here for you because I think our guest is rolling in here soon. We got a quick one here from Brian.
Hey, is there going to be construction and a fire drill and at this time? So that wasn't supposed to happen last year. What Brian's referring to is the Crown Plaza's gift that they gave us, which was shocking us with heavy remodeling and the lobby being remodeled, and then an individual who decided that lighting a doobie at like 12:30 a.m. Was going to be great for having that first meet and greet that none of us was planning on. And it was something I'll never forget because I've spent a decent bit of time with Bob and several of my staff and several of you, but I've never seen you like that before. And honestly, I didn't know some of you wore those type of pajamas. So it was educational for all. And it was cold too. A lot of us didn't have jackets on. It was cold. Um, but beekeepers made the most of it. They they're wanting us to sign a big contract with them, and we may have told them to. Uh, well, no. So
All right.
there shouldn't be. I'll move on, Chris. I'll move on. I was pretty
Yeah.
ticked off.
Yeah, I'm holding your feet to fire. We have a thank you here for Dave before we get too far here.
Oh, Dave, thanks for coming on again, supporting us big like you have. It was good getting to see you at the expo. Appreciate you supporting the youth. I think there's a good chance we'll be able to have the biggest class that we've ever had this year. And I'm always impressed by what some of these teenagers are doing. There's stuff that I wasn't doing at that age, and that's what you want to see, though. You want to see them passing on the torch even further. towards the future. So thank you, Dave, so much. And here we're going to go ahead and be a little bit early on this. Usually we go at 7:30, but we've already got our guest in, and we're just going to go right into it. And we're going to keep him on for about 20 to 30 minutes. Super excited to have him. And then we'll be back to answer your questions. And then at the last half hour, so these live chats are on the first Saturday and the third Saturday, and they go from 7 to 8:30 if I don't get long-winded. So, 9 o'clock. And without further ado, Central Time, that's right.
Central Time.
I'm going to go ahead and pull up a couple of pictures really quick before I bring him on. And let's see if I don't screw this up. Share screen. Entire screen. You'd think I would be really confident at this point. All right, Chris, can you see that?
Good to go.
All right. So, folks, our guest is none other than Brett's English. I wanted to show you these pictures really quick so you guys could get an idea, for those of you who didn't get to see the pictures or go, on the scale of this thing. This picture does not do it justice. And any of you who brought stuff to the Honey Show, thank you so much for doing it. It was absolutely jaw-dropping to see what you all did. So many unique things. And, oh goodness, wrong button. Nope, wrong button. That one. And there's some of the crew right there. And I just wanted to say thank you. That's not all of them, but let's bring Mr. English on. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm lovely.
Well, that's awesome. It looks like there's a little bit of lag, but that's all right. As long as we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm sorry the video's lagging a little bit.
Well, it's Georgia. You guys are usually behind us Tennesseans.
Oh, the abuse starts already. It's not even football season.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't know what we'll do with football season, but that being said, we appreciate what you guys did, and I've got a couple questions for you. And what is the American Honey Show Training Council, Brett?
We are a national organization that specializes in teaching and certifying beekeepers about the proper methods and practices of producing and judging hive produce, particularly honey and beeswax, as well as the myriad of other goods that you can make out of honey and beeswax. We really focus on food safety, cleanliness, and consistency. We train our judges in a uniform set of techniques and procedures to evaluate and judge, as well as criteria that we judge these categories by. And we promote a uniform set of rules so people going from one honey show in one jurisdiction to the next know what the criteria is going to be, what the judges are looking for, and what to expect. And people like that consistency and that uniformity that we try to impart to our judges and other honey show officials. So we are trying to teach beekeepers to be better producers.
Well, I think you guys are being pretty successful at it. And this is something that I'm excited about because back in the day, honey shows were the way that you kind of were able to separate yourselves from the pack, so to speak. Back in the prior to Varroa, when there were so many more beekeepers, and as a culture, there was more farmers, there was more beekeepers, and since bees were easier to keep, the competition was extremely real. And there wasn't social media, there wasn't YouTube and Facebook, and so if you wanted to say, "Hey, my honey is really good. I'm not just good. We're getting blue ribbons for it." That's kind of your sign of going, "This is a legit product here, and it's not just our word. We're actually got some ribbons to show this." And you guys are becoming the standard, it seems like, for a lot of that.
Well, an important part of that, to make those accomplishments more meaningful and more weighty, is you want those exhibits judged by people who are trained and educated into what to look for. I mean, it's easy to pick people out of the crowd and people who have experience in beekeeping, but when you think about it, everything you get out of a beehive is a consumable. It's essentially a food item, whether it's something you're like honey that you're eating or using as an ingredient, or even beeswax that you're making into other consumer products, soaps, lotions, lip balms, toothpaste. I've seen propolis and other things used in a variety of Bath and Body Works items. All those things you're either putting into or on your body, they should be produced to a minimum standard of health and safety. And that's something we try to teach beekeepers about. So many beekeepers are so excited at the end of the year. Hobbyist beekeepers, they have got that first super of honey or 2 or 3 supers of honey, and they don't really know how to deal with that properly. We do a really good job in the beekeeping world of teaching beekeeping, but we don't do a very good job of teaching what to do with all that honey and beeswax once you've been successful at a season or 2 of beekeeping. And that's something we're trying to get the word out to the beekeeping community about.
So I believe you guys have quite a large crew that had a large crew at the expo. How many people did you guys actually have there?
We had a total of 29 people working that honey show. There were 14 judges, 5 secretaries, and 10 stewards officiating and administering that honey show. It took a gargantuan effort, and it wasn't just the 2 days of the conference that the show was going on, and then the day of the viewing at the end. There were many hours.
Do you have an idea? Maybe how many hours?
Well, if you figure up the 29 people and the days that we were there, there were over just on site 1,000 man hours plus. It was almost 1,100 man hours on site. And then when you think about the planning, organizing, recruiting, logistics, trying to find that many knowledgeable people that you could drag across the country to participate in that was a huge task. I would conservatively say there were at least 1,200 or 1,300 man hours put into that honey show last year. And we had judges from 8 different states from across the United States there. We had judges from Indiana, Illinois, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee.
Fixing to say.
We had a nice broad representation geography. It wasn't just people from one locale.
Awesome. How I was blown away by it, and you and I have talked through a lot of things on how we can make this even bigger and better, and we won't spend too much time talking about that, but we definitely have been talking about what we can do to make this a bigger event. But it was stinking big. It blew my mind, which it's not that big, so it's not that hard to do. But how many entries did we have?
We had a total of 1,161 exhibits from 339 unique exhibitors, which that was by a margin of double the biggest honey show that I have ever been involved with in my 12 or 13 years of doing this. It is the biggest pure honey show that I have seen in North America in the last 50 years, certainly. It was enormous. But I think it is just a fraction of what it potentially can be. I think the honey show in 2025 at the Bee Expo is going to be even bigger. And one of the things I'm super excited about, until Bee Expo came along, we really never had an opportunity in this country to have a true national honey show. There are some organizations out there who purport to have a representative honey show of the country, but when you only have 200 or 300 people showing up from a handful of states, that's not really a national contest. And Bee Expo gives us that platform. And if you'll notice the moniker behind me, this year the honey show is going to be the first annual North American Honey and Beeswax Championship. It's going to be the biggest honey show with the biggest fields, the most categories, and the most strictly judged honey show on the planet. And we need the people who are coming to Bee Expo to bring the exhibits. If you want to be the national champion in a particular category, this is going to be the show to do it at. The North American Honey and Beeswax Championship at the 2025 Bee Expo.
Well, I appreciate you coming up with that name. There's Tom Nolan. You want to talk about troublemakers? Awesome presentation. Well, and that's one of the things that we've talked about. We're going to have this year is a a limited seating class that you all will give to instruct people how to be able to not only understand more about this, but maybe get into judging themselves. And there just all the details around it. And there'll be more information. We'll have that online, and we'll announce that. That'll be a little ways out, but we appreciate you guys offering that service. We want to see this grow, not just for the sake of the expo, but also for just the beekeeping community. We want to see state organizations have bigger honey shows and more folks. And for anyone who doesn't know, um, the first, the Grand Champion and the Grand Champion Reserve both get a full ride to the next year's event. And we are going to be sweetening the pot a little bit this year. So more information to follow. But uh, when we definitely saw a lot of things from last year, we're like, man, we're going to have to step up on our end and be better prepared. So we'll be announcing that. One of the things, Brett, I had a question of my own is Laurel has started making June. Are you familiar with that? It's like kombucha,
Yes.
kombucha, whatever. Um, but it's obviously with honey, and it is really good if it's done right. And Laurel makes a raspberry, and it's awesome.
That's something we really I'm asking this community to reach out to us and let us know, what do you want to see in the honey show. We have 80 fantastic categories lined up for this year's Bee Expo, but we're always looking to add new things. We're trying to write a rule now for honey straws. We're trying to write a rule now for several different varieties of bee pollen. We love seeing new and exciting things in the honey show. And if you look at the rules from last year, you don't see something that you think would be a great category that you'd like us to include, let us know. Reach out to the Bee Expo's Facebook page, or email Cayman or myself or any of our social media outlets. Just let us know what you want to see in your suggestions for new rules, because one of the super cool things as a judge is when you see something you've never seen before. And we saw a lot of that at last year's Bee Expo. One of my favorite things from last year's Bee Expo was some honey cotton candy. You know,
That was bizarre.
well, just as a favor to you, Cayman, I ran into the people who made that last month, and I told them how much you liked it, and I asked them to bring you some more to this year's Bee Expo.
Oh
So
man,
I was looking
thank
out
you.
for you.
Well, I appreciate that because I only got a small portion of that last bit. I've got two kids, and my son's got a shirt that says "Always Hungry." It's the truest statement ever said. And he got his hands on it while I was speaking at a conference, and I came back, and there was hardly anything left for me.
That was just one of many, many tremendous exhibits. The beeswax at last year's honey show, or last year's expo, was fantastic. The honey jar labels really stood out. There were some outstanding, unique labeling ideas in there. The arts and crafts stuff was just mind blowing. I remember a book that you open the pages up, sort of fan them out, and cut into the pages was a beautiful honeybee and some honeycomb into the opposite of the spine part of the book when you fanned it out. There was just so much wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
just tremendous quality stuff at that honey show. We'd love to see even more of it. Something I would particularly like to see is more comb honey. Y'all, we make tremendous comb honey in this country, and we
Mm-hmm.
saw a lot, but not what we want to see. We want to see more cut comb, more chunk comb, section comb. If you're doing Ross rounds, if you're doing hog half combs, full frames, top bar frames, any kind of comb honey. We have a new category this year called freeform comb honey. If you're one of those people who likes to take the jars and put them inverted on top of the supers and get the bees to draw funky comb honey and something like that, or any other way you might creatively come up to get your bees to draw comb honey, we have a free-form comb honey category this year. So we would love to see more comb honey. That is a truly challenging thing to make it, but it is the bee's knees when it's done right.
It is. There was a lady that did some sewing. She had that bee of like I don't know what exactly you call that, but it was a work of art in my opinion, and it went viral on Facebook and over 500,000 people last I looked. and which were not beekeepers. It was in a sewing community. And
Mhm.
there's so much value for our industry for these things because now tens upon tens and hundreds of thousands of people that may have never been exposed to bees before are. And maybe they become beekeepers, or maybe they just find one of you guys in the crowd and buy honey from you. That's the kind of the grassroots of what this can do for our industry. And Russ, I got a question for you. It's not actually from me, it's from Gina R.
Sure.
Do y'all know if they will have the mead tasting event again?
I don't know that we had a per se mead tasting event, but if you get in there before a bottle gets empty, we will likely let you have a taste if you want one. A mead swap would be an interesting thing to do with, just like the honey swap. But we try to be pretty accommodating with people who come to view the expo. If you come in and look and see what's there, if you want a taste of something and there's enough of it left, we'll generally try to accommodate you.
We want to see a lot of creativity, and there's a lot of changes going on in the world of bees. We had Blake Shook on recently, and he was saying one of the things they're having a hard time keeping bottled fast enough is hot honey that's smoked. They smoke it, and it's hot honey, and people are going nuts. I talked to a guy that's doing barbecue down the road, and he was asking me if he could get some of my honey to do hot honey for his barbecue. And so as a small industry like we are, I think when we see these hints, I personally, I don't like really hot and spicy stuff. I don't, but that's what people want, and maybe we should consider doing it. And maybe if there's enough demand, do we have a hot honey category?
We have an infused honey category, and we have a spicy infused honey category, as well as our condiments category is also broken out into non-spicy and spicy, because we have some judges like you who just can't handle that much heat. But things like hot honeys, smoked honeys, are really popular. And like you say, I've noticed the same thing about hot honey. Everywhere I turn around, somebody's selling hot honey right now, and it was not a thing 3 years ago. I'd never heard of a hot honey 3 years ago. But that's what I was talking about earlier. You know, as we teach people beekeeping, they get to the end of that year, and all right, I've got these supers of honey now. What can I do with it? What besides extract it and put it in a bottle can I do? If you want to find that out, if you want to learn the variety of value-added things, just come walk through the honey show. Because you want to get good at it, come participate at the honey show. Because that is one thing that you will find is people who participate in the honey shows, who bring exhibits, they get better and better and better. And they will all tell you that their sales, those that sell stuff, go to markets and fairs and festivals or do things online, the more they participate in the honey shows, the more success they have, the more their sales go up and up and up.
Well, I've got several, and this is very generous, and I feel quite spoiled. But a lot of the folks at the expo who win, or even if they don't get the blue ribbon, they share with me what they entered. So I have a lot of stuff that people brought. I get to actually taste it. I'm definitely not good enough to be a judge. I've never entered a jar of honey, and now that I'm interested in it, I'm not going to do it at my own expo because if I wanted to look crooked as heck. But this right here is some creamed honey from the blue ribbon winners from Canada, and it's a cranberry orange. I don't know if they won for this one or a different creamed honey category, but they got a blue ribbon, and that ended up going into some of the news reporting up in Canada, and again promotes beekeeping for all of us. And so there's just a lot of advantages, I think, to the honey show that we a lot of times don't consider. Because even if you don't enter, you can go in there and look, and you can learn from some of the leaders in creamed honey, flavored honeys, how to prep comb honey. There's just so many leaders in that room that really show off in a good way.
You know, one of
And
the most valuable things people get from participating in that honey show, whether they get a ribbon or not, everybody who brings something walks away with a comment card about their exhibit. They will come back with some feedback. That is one of the things we demand of our judges, is that everything outside of the black jar, everything else, We require our judges to fill out a full comment card talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of every single exhibit. We're going to tell you what you did well, what you didn't do well, and what you can do to make it better. So you're going to get some feedback, whether you walk away with a blue ribbon, a white ribbon, a yellow ribbon, or no ribbon at all. You're going to get something useful to take home that's going to make you a better producer and ultimately a better beekeeper.
I 100% agree. I've already got so many ideas. Laurel and I one day want to have a little storefront off of I-40, and we see some of this stuff and like, this is genius, and this could really help out our small store and our customers and whatnot. And it's just inspiring to see that. That's what we want the Bee Expo to be, whether it's the trade show, the honey show, the speakers. We want people to be inspired to try something new, and I want to be inspired too. It's not fun if I'm not inspired. And so sometimes it's watching Randy McCaffrey and going, I'm inspired not to do that. Here's a question for you. Go ahead.
Let me make one shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
My favorite category at the honey show is the black jar. I sell a lot of honey. I'm a honey monger down here in Georgia. I have about 24 stores, and I have these beautiful jars that are all perfectly filled and neatly packed and spick and span clean. But the question my customers always ask, is this the best tasting honey? And that's what the black jar is. We don't care about any of the other judging criteria. It's judged for flavor only. If you can take a Ziploc bag out to your beehive with a hive tool and scrape a gob of honey and comb into a Ziploc bag and bring it to the Bee Expo, you've got a black jar entry. It doesn't require any skill whatsoever. There's no excuse if you're coming to Bee Expo to not bring a black jar. And that, if you win the black jar, even if you place in the black jar in a field this big, to be able to say your honey was the or among the best tasting honeys in the country is a huge, huge cherry to be able to brag about. So go out there, get a little bit of honey. You only need a couple ounces, and enter a black jar at this honey show.
100%. Thanks for plugging that. We will have placement down to 7 positions this year because there's just so many good entries and so many people that enter. We want to give everyone in the top 7 of the several hundred people that enter that to walk away with a ribbon. And this question right here, where can we find the rules for all the categories? We will have those on the website around July 1st, if not before. And we will have a system to where you can actually fill out the form before you get there to help speed things up. We have a lot of things already in the works to make a check-in process a lot easier. And that's one of the reasons we're considering going 3 full days, to where you all can, instead of waiting until like 1 o'clock or 12:30, whatever it was this last year, come in at 9 o'clock. And that way we can do a couple more classes. We also can have more time to get honey checked in, and we can just talk more about bees. So, I mean, come on. So those rules will be up quickly, and you can fill it up beforehand. Is there any more questions, Chris, honey show related?
Yep. I got some, and if we can keep them kind of fast hitting here, I know we could obviously go in depth, but and that's really more for Cayman than you, Brutz, but figure just kind of blanket statement.
Yep.
All right. Here's they're intermixed here. Okay, here's the you hit that one. Here's this one from Mike.
How is a hot honey entry too hot? That's really easy. You can get enough Scovilles in that jar of honey where it obliterates the judge's tongue. You can get it so hot that all we can taste, is just heat, blindingly hot. You want a hot honey that is balanced. The hottest is not the best. You want something that's enjoyable and that has heat, but also has a balance and a recognizable flavor profile from the honey. So don't overdo it.
And Mike had a kind of a follow-up question that goes along with that too. Maybe it'll help.
There is not. It is whether it brings tears to the judge's eyes or not. If it makes them cry and they're looking for water, it's too hot. So no, we don't have a Scoville index for it.
That's funny.
Perfect. And the last one I have here picked out, Cayman, I think was, you kind of touched on it, but I wanted to just address it still.
Ah, yes. So that, like I said, that will be changed. We'll have 7 places. We may decide to go to 10, but ultimately, um, at some point, we've got to narrow it down to a certain group. But yes, we're going to expand a little bit because there was so many entries, and that's one of the things that just blew Laurel and I away is the amount of people that entered all of these things. And we don't know. We sent out multiple polls. I know you sent out a poll, an inquiry. I sent out an inquiry, and I'm not blaming anybody, but we don't get 25% of the people to answer these things. And so it's hard for us to really prepare. We don't know if we're getting 4,000 entries. We don't know if we're getting 400 entries. And so thankfully, uh, the American Honey Show Training Council is over prepared, and so they were able to handle what they had. But it was a little bit of a shocker on how much space it all took up, and so we definitely will be working on that more. And last year was kind of a special year. We had to switch a lot of things up. We've been working on this for months, so we have a lot more time, and the team has a lot more experience. Everything's going to be cranked up a lot, and so I appreciate the folks that have said it'll be hard to top this last year, but oh yeah, we're going to do it.
Well, that was just the beginning.
Yeah, it was. Will
And
you
that's
eventually have an international category?
Well, we do. People from Canada, there are people from all over the world at Bee Expo. The more people who come from around the world, the more international it becomes. And we don't, and with the Honey Show, we're not limited. If you come to the Bee Expo, it doesn't matter where you come from. You could enter that Honey Show and compete with everybody else.
And take some of those blue ribbons back. Even if they say North American Honeybee Expo, they might go to the Dominican. I know a couple of them went up to Canada, and so we definitely want as many people to contribute because obviously we all learn more from it. I think that about does it right there. And I just want to say thank you so much, Brett, for joining us. We appreciate your whole team. I hope that if they watch this, they know that we appreciate them and their hard work. You guys put a lot of hours into getting the training, and that's why you guys are more and more in demand across the United States to do these jobs because people see the value of having you all services. And you guys are great. We basically say, here's the spot, here's some tables, and you guys just take it from there. And like a bunch of bees, put 1,000-something hours into it, and whammo.
Well, thank you again, Cayman. If anybody has any Honey Show questions, you can check out our website. It's super easy. It's www.honeyshowusa.com. No tabs, no spaces, no punctuation. Honeyshowusa.com. We have all kinds of information about becoming a certified judge, setting up trainings in your area. We will come to you. And we also have model rules. If you want to go get a jump start on what the rules are going to look like, they're going to come off that list of model rules on our website. So thank you again for having us on tonight. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, it has been. We'll be talking to you soon. You all take care. If you ever need anything, holler at me, okay? You take care. See you later.
Thank you.
All right, folks. And so we are going to take some more questions and all that kind of stuff and get back into that. And first thing I've got to say, Mr. Reese, thank you so much. $300. Unbelievable. I appreciate that very much. We will put that to good use. Like I've said before, stuff like that helped make the Bee Expo a reality and encouraged us to keep going. It's crazy out there. We get negative stuff every day, and I'm starting to get used to it. Almost. But the people like you all that come on in, so many of you, I've seen your names so many times, and thankfully I've been able to meet most of the regulars on here eventually at some honey show or bee conference or whatever, and be able to put a face with the name. But thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate you very much. All right, you guys have bee questions. We have a giveaway coming up later for a ticket to the North American Honeybee Expo, and that is those tickets are live. Oh, Matthew Booth, next gen donation sent via PayPal. So thank you. Hey, we appreciate that. North Carolina State Lead Hives for Heroes. So I was just looking at this the other day. I need to get this hung up. It's one of my nice pieces I need to get on the wall. but we really appreciate all the vets in beekeeping and what they've done before getting into bees and what they're doing when they're getting into the bees. If we can help them out, we always love to at the Bee Expo. And a lot of our staff been in the military, and so serve. It's always serving. We appreciate you guys. All
Okay,
right,
Kim, I got a quick question for you here. I just
quick
wanted to address
question,
it now from Eric. I know he asked it earlier. Sorry, Eric, it got buried. I apologize.
Eric. So we there. I cannot remember what the cutoff is. I'd have to look into it. There's so much information I can't always keep it straight. But we don't let the young kids in. In the past, I haven't had my son and daughter are there the whole time. They've only been to one conference for like 30 minutes, and it's just logistical problems. I know a lot of people um, are disappointed with some of the decisions that we make, but we are a small team and we are a family operated conference, and we're not capable of handling 500 to 1,000 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds. So I think the cutoff is 10 or 11. I cannot remember for sure on kids allowed to the expo. And that's a little bit of a disappointment. We love kids, but they're not going to get a lot from the lectures at that age, and just logistically, it has not made sense for us to be able to offer that at this time.
All right.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
we got quite the stack here. Let me go back here. All right.
Okay.
Oh man.
So I see where you've clicked some of them. I'm going to grab one of them really fast. It's
Yeah,
Stuart
go
the
for it.
Beekeeper. So Cayman, any talk about combining the North American Honeybee Expo with the ABF or the Honey Producers, which is the American Honey Producers Association? There has been a little bit of talk about that in the past, very light talk, and it's something I was super skeptical about, and so were other groups because we're different in a lot of ways, and I don't think any of the groups really want to change too much what they're doing, afraid that that will affect their identity and what they're doing. So no, that's not going to happen, not likely, and Laurel and I aren't interested in working. We want to work with, like if they say, hey, we got a project or we need support, we would jump on working with any of those organizations faster than you can say Jack Sprat. But outside of that, it doesn't seem like it makes any sense to run a joint conference, and it's kind of a bummer. But that's just the way that it's going to work. Too many personalities.
All right. Next one I have coming up for you from Robert. Here he is.
Robert, how long should I wait after shaking the top box down to the bottom and separating with the queen excluder before I split? I cannot find the queen, lots of brood in the top, just waiting to finish. Okay, so you've shook the top box down into the bottom, and you're separating with the queen excluder before you split. So basically, if I understand, Robert, what you're doing is making sure that queen's not in the top box, and that's kind of for everybody wondering what this might mean. We're shaking all the bees out of the top brood chamber and then putting an excluder in between the bottom brood chamber and the top one. And then when you have bees move back in to cover the brood in that second, the queen won't be there. And this is used by a lot of professional beekeepers, commercial beekeepers, as a quick way to not have to find the queen, but also be able to pull off a split without the queen and know that you don't have her. So you can just wait a little while. I don't know how soon, but real fast. From what I understand, a lot of guys come back. They like if they're doing 40 colonies in a yard, or 10 or whatever the number is, they start at one, go all the way to the end, and by the time they get to the last one, they start pulling the splits off. And some of the beekeepers, when they put that excluder in and put the box back on top, they wait a second or two and then they smoke the bees a little bit at the entrance, kind of wanting to push them up a little bit faster. I don't know how fast you can do that, but I know it's fast. It's not like a half a day or a full day. It's pretty fast. Bob Benny, next time I talk to him on the phone, I'll ask him that question. Bob would know the answer to that, but I know it's quick.
All right. Next question we have is from the Dominican Beekeeper.
What size filter bag would remove most of the pollen and honey? I can't remember how small grains of pollen are. I know that they're smaller than 100 microns. Most pollens are quite small, but I don't know. And honestly, I've never tried to filter that out of my honey before, so I don't know. That information probably Google could get you with on what are the size of average pollen grains, and then you could do that if you needed to. But we typically don't worry about it, and it's all good. We were selling at a place recently, and there was a little bit of specks in the top of the honey, and like, what is this? Is this safe to eat? I'm like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff right there. When we say raw, there's some bee wings in there. I mean, no, I just there's pollen granules in there. Um, okay, so all jokes aside, Laurel brought this in for me. This is Laurel is always doing something new. She's a very creative person, and even though she doesn't talk, she's always working on projects and things. And it's kind of part of our problem, right? Because we're too much alike. Between the two of us, we are always just stupid busy. And this is June. If any of you have heard of kombucha, I never can get that right. This is if there's alcohol in it, it's got to be like zero, almost like 0.1, but it's not an alcoholic beverage. It's fermented. It has a lot of good bacteria that's good for your gut. And this uses honey and green tea. And this has raspberry and this has strawberries in it. You just make yourself puree. And Laurel makes this, and it is absolutely delicious. Some kombucha and other things like that aren't the greatest in the world. I've had a lot of those. When I drove a truck, I had a lot of gut issues with the stress and and irregular hours and eating, and this stuff has helped me. But it's nice to drink something delicious with honey. It's good and good for you. And the raspberry is just if you like a tart, sweet drink. Mm. And then if you don't even put the raspberry or the berries in there, if you have a nice flavored honey, it's really good as it is. And so this is a lot of fun. Just beware. I think we're going to try to get Laurel to do a video on this eventually. We'll see. Um, she opened one of them up. It said a little bit long and it had a lot of natural carbonation. Oh my goodness. It just about shot a hole through the ceiling drywall, that cork or the plastic cork they have on those things. And it sprayed all over the ceiling too. And what a mess. Laura was quite upset. And so I just went outside and worked bees because I thought, get stung, upset wife in the kitchen, stay out. So she got over it pretty good. And she's still kicking away. So let's get back to some more questions. Hey, if you had a question that was a while back ago, we're not going to go probably up and get that unless Chris has marked it. So it's okay to re-put that comment down below so that we can see it a lot easier and get to it. So we will be taking your questions, and then we will, over this next half hour, do that next Honeybee Expo ticket giveaway.
Yeah, I thought about maybe 2 or 3 more questions and we could do that giveaway and after that. So we have a question here from Shannon.
Question: I have 2 colonies with possible Africanized genes. Sorry, I was laughing at another comment I saw off the side. I have 2 colonies with possible Africanized genes. Queens from Texas. The colonies are aggressive. Apparently, have virgin queens that you can't find. Can I just shake them out? Hey, Shannon, you could do that, and one of the things that works good if you have a virgin queen or a queen that's really hot and you don't like that queen and you're okay with sacrificing some brood, you're talking about shaking them out. Some formic acid, full strength, that can cause a super seizure to happen. Then you come back in, you can crush the cells, requeen it. I've only dealt with one really hot hive. It also came out of a part of Texas from a certain company whose owner and we just don't get along that good. That was funny, Chris. We won't get into those details, but that was funny. It is funny now. But some of those bees are quite hot and so aggressive, and there's no reason why we should have to with 100 bees attacking us all at the same time on the regular. And some of those bees out of Texas are worse than that. So if you can't find the queen, shake them out, formic acid, whatever. Sorry you're dealing with that. Mean bees can be quite irritating. This was the one that I laughed at right here. It's quite the opposite, but it is funny. It is funny.
I was trying not to stir up the pot. Hence I skipped that. I mean,
Well, you clicked it, you highlighted it, man, and so I naturally gravitated towards looking towards it, and I find it funny. Several of the board members are buddies of mine, and just like other organizations that are out there, a lot of them would like me to join. The ABF is not one of them. Most of the ABF, and that's fine. I don't care. But why would I do that to myself? A board of directors of like 14 people? Oh my goodness. Might as well get into government. Then I go bald. And Laurel says that she thinks I look terrible bald. So she'll probably have to get over that fact here in the next 15 to 20 years. But maybe one of these days you'll be seeing me in a video with being bald like that. Cue ball. Be like Gus Mitchell. It works for Gus, but Gus is like a mountain. I don't know if I can pull it off. Mr. Clean. All right, if you have a bad queen and end up with an excessive amount of drones, is there any way to rid the colony of the excessive emerges of drones and just let them watch anything? Okay, so you have excess amount of drones. Is there a way to rid the colony of the excess of emerging drones, or just let nature run its course with a new queen? So here's the trick, Donald. If they have a bunch of drones, it's not the end of the world. They won't get a lot done. They're going to consume a lot. But the biggest problem is a lot of times if you have a drone later and she's laid in worker comb and then they've reshaped those worker cells to drone sizes, that great queen is still going to lay all of those full of drones because she bases what type of egg, male or female, off of the cell size. So if they've expanded all of those out, you're going to end up with a lot of drones and more on the way, even more than before, because this new queen's going to lay a lot better. And she's just going to lay drones in every single drone cell that the bees reshape. So sometimes you may have to put some of those combs to the edge or melt them down. We always deal with this a couple times of the year where we didn't get to a colony fast enough and we have a lane worker situation. And it got long in the tooth, and we have 6, 8 or so combs where they just laid so much drone brood in those and they've reshaped them. And if we want more drone brood, fine, but I don't really need more. And so a lot of times those end up getting melted down. We take the plastic foundation out, scrape it off, and then put a new plastic foundation in. It kind of stinks, but it happens, unfortunately. All right, next question, Chris, before I start talking about something else weird.
I mean, I'm trying. I'm doing my best here.
All right, here's one right here I just found. What do you think of the synthetic drawn comb? So this is the product I imagine from Better Bee. I don't know of another one, Better Comb. I've never used it, but I've talked to guys who have, a couple of my buddies, and if you wire it in, it does a good job for brood. I haven't heard a lot about extracting with it, and I don't think you're really supposed to. Maybe you can use it for honey, but someone told me they didn't think it did really well with slinging it out, maybe at long periods, but it could work. It's expensive, and a good hive should draw combs pretty well. I just don't know if it's worth the cost. But if it's worth that cost to you, then it can help you out. I'd have to try it. Frederick Dunn did a good video on it. I can't remember his name right now. Tim something or other. It works though. The queen will lay brood in it. It just takes them a little second to get used to it. Yeah, Dave Dwyer says, "Here comes the 3-hour show." Wait, you are not already bald? I am not. There we go.
All right, we got a nice question here from Magnolia Springs Farm.
How do you bank queens? So I don't like to bank them very long. The longer you bank them, all the research shows, all the data shows that their acceptance rate goes down, longevity eventually starts going down, but you can bank them for a little while with very little negative effects. My opinion, a week is as long as you want to go. Ideally, that's pushing it. Personally, how I do it is really rudimentary, very simple. And let's say I've got 10 queens in cages. They're not going to have any attendants in there, and they're not going to have any candy in there either. It's just the queen. And I stick them in the JZB setup in what they call it, a little battery box, a little orange box. You can put them in that, or they have the bigger boxes with screen, or you can make your own, just a cardboard box with screen on it. You want to keep that cool. And then what we do is we go in, we find frames of young larvae and the bees that are on that, making sure we don't get the queen in that hive, and we shake them out. We want a bunch of nurse bees. Nurse bees will really take good care of those queens. And we want to, if there's 10 queens in there, I want about, that many bees in there, half a pound. And I'm going to put a sponge in there, and I'm going to put a little bit of fondant, or I can cut a hole in the lid, and I can put a inverted jar of water and an inverted jar of very thin sugar syrup. We're not trying to make them draw comb. We're not trying to get them to store anything, but they need to be fed. And if those nurse bees are fed and they have the water and they have the sugar syrup, they will feed those queens and take care of them, and just keep those at room temperature. And you can bank them like that for a week. Now, if you want to bank them for a very long period of time, you can put them in a hive, and you can basically make a bank like that in a hive too. That's how I bank mine, though, and it's just a super simple way of doing it. I've never banked them longer than a week. I've only done it like once or twice. And if you want like serious commercial banking, I'm not the guy. Sorry, I just don't really know anymore about that subject. We got Tennessee Tim joining us, and we got all kinds of people on here. Please, Laurel. Maybe Laurel should be our special guest next week, or the week after next.
Damon,
I'm
you want
gonna
another
like
question, or do you want to do this
beg for
drawing?
2 weeks. Okay, let's do the drawing here at 8:10. So I want to take one more question, and I'll be at a minute and a half. I mean,
Okay.
I
I got
always
a
answer
question here
questions in a minute and a half.
I got a question here from Janet. Perfect one for
Okay.
you.
How do I tell the difference between a swarming preparation robbing and just normal behavior? So just looking at the hive, I can't really tell. If there's a lot of activity, there could be a lot of reasons for activity. If there's a lot of bees hanging off the entrance, could be a lot of reasons for that. You can see massive beards off of hives this time of the year if you have just a little entrance reducer and you have this massive colony. They can't get enough airflow for that many bees and that many bodies in there. It's one of the big mistakes I see a lot of new beekeepers do, just because they don't know that they have this entrance reducer and it's that big, and there's 2 deeps of bees are close to that, and it's a hot day and they've got to get some airflow in there. So you can have a big cluster of bees trying to get those bodies out, and a lot of people think it's a swarm, and it's not. What you're going to really see to know that there's swarm preparation is the swarm cells being formed on the bottom of frames. Now, there will be occasionally some swarm cells that are not at the very bottom of the frame, but you're definitely going to be seeing a lot of those beginning to form. And you're always going to see cups down there, but are we seeing them put some lighter colored wax on it? Are they elongating that? Is there royal jelly in there? Are they putting eggs in them? Just because there's an egg in there doesn't always mean they're going to go the swarm tendency. Sometimes that queen just has to find a spot to lay. She drops one in the nearest cup she can find and goes on. And they're just like, what does queen do? We don't need one here. And they cannibalize that egg and conserve the fats and protein. But the main thing is get into your hive, checking to see if they're building swarm cells. And if your bees are running out of space, there's a good chance of it. Especially this time of the year, you can have so much pollen, so much nectar come in, and your bees can grow so rapidly during this time, because if you have a really good frame of brood and it's capped on both sides, and that's mostly full, there's 7,500 odd cells between both sides of that frame. If that's mostly full, when that emerges, that's going to take 2 to 3 frames easily, pushing 3 frames of space right there. So things can happen really fast this time of the year. So when you're getting ready for your honey flow, nectar flow, make sure your bees don't run out of space. And there's nothing wrong with checking them frequently. There's hives that I have checked every 5 days for a few weeks, making sure that I got the swarm tendency out of them. I'm fixing to release a video that Laura and I just recorded on a colony we already did a video on, which is the follow-up. And our reward for getting into this colony 4 times in, like, I don't know, 16, 18 days, something like that, is we controlled swarming. It was out of their system. They've already filled 2 medium supers worth of honey, and we still have a lot of season left. That's the reward for doing it. There are people online that'll tell you if you get into your hives too often, it's going to make them swarm and abscond, and it's stressful for them. They won't make honey if you do that. And I'm just looking at my bees going, obviously you didn't get on Facebook today. So Chris says no one is yet entered into the drawing. Where are we putting that? How are we going to do that, Chris? Enlighten me.
I can open it up whenever you're ready.
Well, it's 8:10, I believe. I think
Perfect.
I got that right on the mark. Yes. So
all right. Well, I think let me click a button here, and anyone who is interested in it should put this keyword and that keyword only in the chat one time.
Okay.
And that'll get them entered.
All right. So do they do hashtag Expo25
Yes.
or they leave the hashtag off?
Hashtag Expo25.
All right. So folks, put the hashtag Expo25. We are going to. How many minutes do you want to give this, Chris, before we do the drawing?
Oh, let's give it. I don't know. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
So you can answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do it no later than 8:20, and then we'll do the drawing. Chris, shut up.
No, I'm laughing. So okay. So just as a disclaimer, I hit start and then using your channel put the word in there. So there is a possibility that you could win this drawing. So we'll have to deal with that. There's no way to remove your name.
So I can win a ticket to this.
I just want to clear the air on this now. So I apologize on the really small chance.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, it's gonna happen.
So I'm going to talk about something I'd like to address real fast.
Sure.
Burrow mites, big issue. One of the exciting products, I've mentioned this in the past, is Viroxan. That'll be releasing in the summer. According to the developers of the product, it has federal approval. It does not have state approval yet, but they are going to state approval and have submitted that to every state in the United States. So they're very hopeful that most states will have this by like July. And this product is a slow release oxalic acid. It'll be certified to use with honey supers on because it breaks down into very natural ingredients like H2O, CO2, just very natural things. And it's just safe for beekeepers and bees, as long as you don't stick it in your mouth or rub your eye with a strip or something. So this is a gentle product that can be used during the honey flow, and I like that because it works best when the mite levels are low. If you have an extremely low amount and you're just not seeing a lot of mites, perfect. Throw that thing in there because the research has shown that these type of products are good at keeping the mites low if they're already low, because it just chips away at them. But if you already have a high mite count, a lot of us wait too late in the season to treat for mites. Big problem, see it all the time, and I used to do it a lot myself. And people just wait and wait until it's quite late in the season. And no, Richard, you don't need to mask up with this new product. It is a strip, it's kind of similar to Apivar or Hop Guard. You hang it between the frames. It actually goes on both sides of a frame. As the bees touch it, the oxalic acid and the glycerin mixture spreads onto the bees and hits some mites. It's very gentle on the colony. Unlike some other products, it doesn't disrupt the pheromones of the colony, which I really like. I love the idea of making splits and putting these strips in, coming back like 7 days later, cutting the queen cells down, introducing my queen, that I've purchased or raised for myself. And what I've done since I've waited 7 days, I actually increase a little bit of my chance of that queen getting accepted and not having to worry about a virgin hatching out and killing my queen. But I'm also creating a bigger brood break where these treatments can work better and kill more mites as the mites are exposed. And so I'm excited about that product. Who will be selling it? A lot of stores will be selling it. Basically, all the normal places. I think Foxhound Bee Supply said they've already got it on their website, just not ready to sell yet, but you can see it. I'm sure companies like Hilco, Man Lake, Data, I mean, pretty much anybody who's doing a lot of sales for general merchandise, I imagine, will have this eventually. And so that's exciting. It's good to add with what you're already doing. And I'm of the mindset, y'all, because a lot of you tell me that you're getting $10 or more a pound for honey. If you're doing that, invest a little bit more into your mites. Uh, Spend the money, keep your bees stronger, keep them healthier, make more bees, make more honey, buy less bees, and put your money into those mite treatments and just never let those mites affect your bees. And the biggest problem you're going to have is then keeping that swarm control down. Chris, are we about where we're at? Basically, we're about there. Guys, get those in Expo 25, just like Jeff Long has right there. If you've already done it, please don't do it again. And we will be doing that.
We're sitting at about 228 entries.
All right.
So, I mean, maybe give it another minute or two. And
this is last call. So if you want to get those, get that chance for a ticket.
Why don't you answer this question, then we'll pull.
After this question, we're going to do it. So Osborne's Brothers Honey Cayman, how pricey will this product be? When I looked at what they were planning on doing it wasn't that bad. It was cheaper than your average stuff. Definitely cheaper than Apivard, cheaper than Apiguard and stuff like that. I cannot remember exactly what it comes to, but I think if you bought a lot of it, it was going to be in like the $4 range, $4 and something per hive. Let's see. It depends on how big the hive is too. I think in smaller quantities though is more around $6, but that was months ago and things can change. So I don't know for sure, but when I saw it the first time, it looked reasonable to me. And again, I think using this appropriately is the most important thing. Is like, okay, we don't even have a 1% mite infestation. We're using it now because one of our speakers, Greg Rogers, did some testing on that, and there's been other people that have done testing, Bob, Benny, and several others. And that's what these things do really good. Of course, Randy Oliver's done a ton of testing on this. Start when they're low. It works really well for that. And they're saying that it works even better than the research has shown for other products that have been made. And so there is a chance that it may even work better than we think. I'm always super skeptical because the companies always say a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but I'm trying to pick on a few people that some of these products promise a lot and under-deliver on efficacy. So I've tried Apivard the last several years. There's a couple people that say they get some really good results out of it. I'm just not seeing it. It's not like it used to. It doesn't kill the same. So we don't really like the synthetics anyways, and so we're moving on. I'll use it for some testing, maybe some research or whatever, but that's it. So, all right, there's that question. Everyone's got their stuff in. If not, you better type it in now. So, Chris, let's do this thing.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, allow screen. And let's just cross our fingers this doesn't draw you.
It's not going to draw me. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, barely missed Bruce. Rob B's Apiary. Congratulations, Rob. Congratulations. And thanks everybody for entering in. We may do this again in the future. You never know. But we appreciate you joining us. on this announcement video for the North American Honeybee Expo. We have a lot of new things in the works. We hope that if you have any ideas that you'll share them with us. A lot of our best ideas were ideas that folks had shared with us, and they're like, hey, what if we try this? So we would love for you to contribute that. And if you do Facebook, we have the North American Honeybee Expo Facebook group. We have also the Cayman Reynolds Facebook group. If you're not a part of that, that's because we don't, if you have a bee question like you've had in here, you can post in the Cayman Reynolds group. In the North American Honeybee Expo, we don't want to get bogged down with, hey, should I have an entrance reducer or not? That's just not the place for it. So we decline a ton of posts in that group and the North American Honeybee Expo group. So if you post there and you're like, why didn't they accept my, I wanted to show my beehives to everybody. We're not going to do that in the Expo group. But in the Cayman Reynolds group, that's general discussion. It's a fun group to be a part of, and people are really polite there. And if not, Laurel boots them. So there, but
Would you like to do one more question?
well, what we need to do is get this Rob fella's email address so we can actually make sure that he gets his ticket, because he probably would appreciate that. And so, Mr. Rob, congratulations. Please type a way to contact you down below, or Chris, if we can give them one of our email addresses or something like that, where they can reach out to us, that would be great.
Yeah, he can feel free to message me directly on YouTube or however.
So or caymansbees@gmail.com. It's just that simple. KAMONSBEES@gmail.com. That will work too. And there's a question that I had prior to this, and Bonnie Joseph, I actually wanted to do this earlier on and I forgot. She was asking about yellow jacket queens. We had mentioned killing a bunch of yellow jacket queens, Laurel and I, and we actually don't have a super awesome secret technique for that. I'm sorry. I think there's traps out there that lure those things in, and it's so important to catch the queens, obviously, in the spring before they make their nest in the ground or a log or wherever, and then you end up with 10,000 or more of them later in the year. But we see them all over the place. We just have so many of them, and we have killed at least 7 yellow jacket queens. If you see a big yellow jacket, a little bit bigger than usual, or even just a yellow jacket in April and May, it's a yellow jacket queen. Unless you're in the deep south where they overwinter, it's a yellow jacket queen that you're seeing fly around looking for a hole or somewhere to build a nest. And we help them find a hole, all right, 6 feet under, and we just swat them out of the air. Hive tool test, all of those tests, and so far 7 out of 7 have not passed the test.
Hey, Cayman, what address did you want Rob to send it to again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just caymansbees@gmail.com. Hey, Flower Street Farm, I couldn't agree more. Greg Rogers did a great job. It was a last-minute talk. We really try to have some talks that are applicable for the moment. And Greg reached out to me after I was talking to Bob, and he's like, hey, Greg's got this research they've been doing, had some really promising results. And so I talked to Greg on the phone about it, and I was like, man, we got to figure out a way to work this in. So we did. And it was a really good talk. Greg is just a good guy all the way around. It's a good, honest operation and is doing some good work. So always good to see Greg. There's just so many people that contribute to this thing we call beekeeping, and I couldn't be more proud that a lot of them choose to come to our expo and be with us here in the comments. We just appreciate everything that you guys are doing in your region, from selling honey and educating people to maybe designing the next Varroa Crusher 4000. Someone needs to invent that now. All right. Oh, I saw Red Dirt Rooster Road, and I'm like, I thought that was Dirt Rooster that was on. A lot of friends on here. Bruce, I hope your season's still working good for you. Ours has been going pretty good. I tell you what, we're going to go just a little bit longer. A few more questions. We have been busy talking about the expo a lot more than I thought, and so I haven't been able to get to as many questions.
Okay, you ready?
Let's see right here. It's $4 a hive, though the strips are 39 bucks for 60 strips. So it's, let's see here. So if you use 4 strips to a hive, and that's where I have to look at it again. It looks like it's under $4 a hive if that's the price. Um, we'll have to look into that a little bit more. Next time I have my live chat, we definitely will have that information for you. And I'll talk to the guys at Vita Bee Health about it a little bit more. We're wanting to get some as soon as they release them and test them out. So yeah, Flower Street Farm. We have a lot of vendors gearing up to have their biggest show ever. So we are having to get more vendor hall space. So that's going to be a fun logistic to work out. The trade show is quite a bit of fun. All right, looking for some questions.
All right, ready? I got one here
Yep.
from Central Kentucky Bees.
What's the best way to plug a nuke into a queenless colony? Newspaper combined, queenless colony on top. So yes, the newspaper combine is the best way. If it's a colony you're combining them in that's been queenless for a while, it's rough situation. You want slow release, and if you have a natural honey flow, that makes it better. But if you don't, or if it's rainy weather, use a little bit of sugar syrup. If you have honey supers on, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're not worried about honey, give them a little bit of sugar syrup, and the top hive or the bottom hive, either one could have it. But whenever they meet each other, they're giving gifts to each other essentially. They're sharing that feed, and everyone's happier that way. If let's say you see a queen though, this time of the year when everything's really nice, and I've done this several times before, and it's like, okay, here's a 5-6 frame colony came out of winter. The queen's bad. They just can't get it going. Something's wrong here. And so we kill the queen, and then we plug in a good nuke, and we just stick the frames of that original colony off to the side, plug the nuke in the center with the queen, somewhere there in the center, and give them a little bit of feed, and boom, they're done. You do that during a honey flow, it's pretty easy. But whenever you're introducing like a nuke or less into a bigger colony, or a colony that has been queenless for a long time, it's better to be slow, because of that colony that you killed the queen in, they have brood, they have stages. They also aren't just a bunch of old. You don't have like 8,000, 10,000 old bees ready to just kill anything that they just don't like. So it just really depends on the situation.
All right. I got one here from Brian.
How long after you do a split with a swarm cell that's capped should you check the hive? So if the cell is ripe, which would be day 10 after grafting, but it's a swarm cell, so you don't know how old that thing is. It's capped on day 6. Well, that's what we call it from grafting. In bee terms, from the day that the egg was laid, it's capped on like day 9.5. So if you're seeing a capped cell, that's been in development for about 10 days, and it's 16 days for a queen. So it's anywhere between 10 and 16 days. So you always have to count a little bit long, because it could be they just capped it. So let's say it's day 10, and it's going to take her 6 days to emerge from that cell. So that's 6 days there. And now she's going to run around the hive for a couple of days. They don't go on a mating flight immediately. So now we're up to, let's just say, worst case scenario, 10 days right there before she even flies out. Then it can take a couple mating flights. And then she comes back, and now we're at 2 weeks. And she's probably either just beginning to lay in the process of laying. Now, if you have a whole week of rainy weather, that changes all those dynamics. But typically, in a situation like that, I give it 3 weeks. There's no reason to rush. Definitely, it's better not to rush these things. So give it 21 days, 24. Wouldn't hurt to give it 24. If you wait 24 days and you don't have a queen in there, you don't have a queen. And this is one of the reasons why I really like to, when I make my splits, use make the split and move it to a new location because everything that I'm giving them is young bees that have a lot of life left in them. All the old bees go to the original colony. It's easier to combine those. And so this swarm split that you made will be like that as well, I imagine, because you've probably moved it away from the original colony. But I'd give it 3 weeks. Oh, more for the you. Thank you so much. Isn't it? It's like 3 a.m. I think in Sweden. Just in case you're not awake next time. Well, thank you so much. Bless your heart. I hope you guys are doing good in Sweden and the bees are doing well, and all the flowers and trees that you're planting are doing well. She has been planting stuff for bees there for years on their homestead they have, and it's going to be like a honeybee garden. That's something that I really enjoy. I've got some Vitex, I got some black locust going. I have a couple other plants for bees. I've got some button bushes, and I'm trying to start getting a little bit more good honey bee food and just native bee food planted. It's enjoyable. Looking forward. All right, I am too, Philip. Looking forward to seeing you there. Bought the green. Oh, how many tickets are you selling for 2025? Well, with this new venue that we have at Louisville, um, I think that we could probably go to four. We could go to whatever. I mean, Louisville could hold 100,000 people. We can't handle that many. So probably, 4,000. That'd be tops. I don't even know if it'll get to that. We could. It keeps growing and more interest for it. So we'll have to see. It's ever on our minds, and we're working on a lot of things on what can we do to make it better. And we have hot chocolate coming this year. We have better food options coming this year. We have better ways of getting the lines shorter this year. The ticketing lines were, I think, pretty darn fast. We were really proud of that. But the honey show lines, we're going to be getting those times down this year to where we can spend more time hanging out. I'm really wanting to toy around with the idea. I don't know if I'll get it done. I really want to have instead of a cornhole competition, no joke, a beekeeping, like a honey hole competition. Maybe we won't call it that, but we'll call it something. And we have someone make up some nice regulation cornhole boards and get some hexagon pads that are the correct weight, and then have some companies and individuals basically compete, and we'll do like a blue ribbon, first, second, third place for that, and bragging rights, and like a trophy. And we'll probably have a small buy-in for that, very affordable one, and that'll go to either the youth program or some type of maybe supporting the honey judges, helping them out a little bit, something like that. We're just thinking of different ideas. Garrett Honeybee says, comment. For what it's worth, Cayman, we've been thriving this year as beekeepers with the takeaways done. The Expo 24. I challenge you to set a higher standard for Expo 25. Challenge accepted. That's the way that we work. Laurel's super competitive. She never gives me any rest. Very, very hard, to have a wife like that. But that being said, no, we're planning on taking it up a notch. We appreciate you guys so much. Um, Hang on, everybody, to the season. It can be stressful at times with, oh, they're swarming, there's this, and oh, there's that, but kind of take it in. Sometimes I get so caught up in how busy it is this time of the year, you forget to stop and do a Varroa toss. You forget to stop and literally smell the wild roses and to smell the blackberry blossoms or whatever it's blooming in your area. This is a magical time of the year. And given how things went last year for me, we won't get into that, but I actually like took a break for a while, and whether I wanted to or not. And so to me, it's like almost getting to do it all over again as a new beekeeper and getting to get excited about this season and just see the wonder that is these little bitty creatures being able to go out and collect all this honey, bring in this beautiful pollen, and enjoy it. It's a beautiful thing that you get to be a part of. That's why we keep coming back to it. That's why we're here chatting with each other. That's why we do all the crazy stuff that we do. So thanks for being crazy with me. We are going to answer one more question and get on out of here. So Vince, if I pull Apivar 2 weeks early, will I lose much? Might drop. Not a lot, based off of my. You're going to lose some, but you're not going to lose a lot with it. Again, I haven't been impressed with Apivar at all. And I hate that. I hate an option kind of going away. We need all the tools we can get, but it has to work. And I'm not seeing it. And for the price that it is, and for it putting synthetics into our beeswax and stuff, it's got to perform at a high level to justify that. So, Chris, everybody,
Cayman, we got real quick before you close up here. We got two really good ideas. One.
Oh my goodness! What kind of law?
I'm not sure anything could go wrong. Our liability insurance, I'm sure, would cover this.
Yeah.
Or this is a good one, but I also like Keith and Russell had the same. Keith said it first, but they both had a great idea here too, which is who could lose their hive tool the fastest.
That's
between those two ideas. Those are some real good ideas.
It is good, and honestly, if we were a generation or so before, we would do the hive tool throwing contest, no doubt. The world, unfortunately, is not what it was when my dad was a young man, and the liabilities are crazy for stuff like that. But I love the sound of that. Maybe we have to do a small event, a private one of these days. Laurel Reynolds, this is an important comment, folks. Listen, smokers, smoke ring contest outside, though. We don't need to set out the expo fire alarm. Yeah, don't give anybody any ideas. We have
I think Laurel just signed up to host the smoke ring contest outside. The sole judge.
That's what it sounded like to me too, Chris. Laurel actually is really good at this. She'd probably wipe the floor with all of you all. Maybe not everybody, but definitely most of you. Laurel is like Gandalf over there, except way easier on the eyes. And she takes one of my dated smokers, and I'm like over there working bees, and she's just over there blowing smoke rings like it's the Hobbit or something like that. And which is as short as both of us are. We're halfway there. So, all right. Laurel says that Rob's bee. She's got your email. Awesome. Appreciate you all so much. Keep the questions coming. We love the ideas, the creativity, and we have a lot more time to plan this year. We have experience. Last year was a nightmare trying to rush that expo and put that all together so fast, and we did it. My team can't say enough about Laurel and our team to be able to pull it off, and the vendors to be able to pull it off. But now we have experience, and boy, we're excited about having that because we can really dial in the little things that'll make it really special. So thank you all. God bless. If you have any questions, save them up or send them to me at caymansbees@gmail.com. I can't get to all of them through email, but I can get them prepped and ready for the next live chat, which will be the third week of this month, which is the 18th, 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll see you there.